You are the Doctor.
Yep. I know I always will be. 11's hour is over now. The cock is striking 12's. I will always remember when the cocktail was me, Raggedy Man. Yeah? Oh, what the fuck? Good night. Oh, damn it, Pond. Ugh.
No. Please, don't change.
Hey.
You talking to me? Doctor? Kidneys! I've got new kidneys. I don't like the colour
Of your kidneys?
We're probably crashing. Just one question. Do you happen to know how to this thing? Get away from me, you dirty old man.
The end of number 11. It's been one hell of a ride. The only way to begin this review is to start by simply jumping in and saying, Geronimo.
Hello, my fellow Whovians and subscribers, and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where I review the 241st Doctor Who story, which is the 2013 Doctor Who Christmas special, as well as it being Matt Smith's final story as the 11th Doctor. The Time of the Doctor, written by Stephen Moffat. So, The Time of the Doctor. Well, folks, we have made it to the end of the Matt Smith era. It has been a long old journey trying to review Matt Smith. Let me tell you that. He's the Doctor who has the second most amount of stories behind Tom Baker. But by number of seasons, he has 3 seasons and then some specials, of course. So yeah, we finally reached the end, and the plot of Time of the Doctor is as follows. Orbiting a quiet backwater planet, the massed forces of the universe's deadliest species gather, drawn to a mysterious message that echoes out to the stars, among them the 11th Doctor. Rescuing Clara from a family Christmas dinner, the Time Lord and his companion must learn what this enigmatic signal means for his own fate and that of the universe. So, The Time of the Doctor. Well, Matt Smith's last story, how does it stack up? You know, I've never really been sure about how I felt about Time of the Doctor. When I first saw it, I didn't really know what to think of it. I didn't honestly care for it that much. And over the years, it's kind of flip-flopped. My opinion of it has really changed to the point where I just didn't know what I felt about it. I've come to the conclusion, watching it today, that I think it's good. Yeah, I like Time of the Doctor. I wouldn't say I love it. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's a decent enough ending for Matt Smith. It could have been better. It also could have been worse. It's a very mixed bag of a story for me. I feel there's a lot of things to like about it, but there's also a lot of things that I think don't work about the story. First of which, the stuff that doesn't work. The humour. I think some of the humour is really cringy and ridiculous in this story. Like the whole idea of being naked in church. That's just ridiculous. I don't understand what the hell that was all about. To the point where Matt Smith even has a brief moment where he takes his clothes off. And I think, honestly, that's going too far. Stephen Moffat, stop being such a pervert, for God's sake. I also think that Clara going back and forth from Trenzalore to her Christmas dinner gets really repetitive after a while, and it drags the story down for me. I find that to be very tedious, and the episode itself feels a bit long. Like it does feel like it drags on quite a lot of occasions. Like, for most of the story, the Doctor is stuck on Trenzalore, saving everybody from the villains, and that's fine. But most of the episode seems to be focused on the point of view of Clara, who's going back and forth, and it just seems to be a bit overdone. You know, it really feels like, come on, can we just get to the point, please? Speaking of the villains, I think they're okay, but I think there's too many of them. We don't need the Weeping Angels in this story. They're literally in the snow. We see a hand of one of them that grabs Clara's leg. And then we also have wooden Cybermen, which is strange, but I don't mind the design too much. It's not too bad, but I never thought the Cybermen could really be wood, but okay. I think there's at least 2 of these villains that you could cut out. I don't think you need all of them. I mean, the Silence, I can kind of understand why they're in it, because from the beginning of Maxim's era, it was said that Silence would fall, and they've tried to kind of make out in this story that everything is kind of built up to this. On the fields of Trenzalore is when the Doctor will fall. I mean, you decide how you feel about whether the build-up has been worth it. For me, I feel like Moffat has tried to do something massive and epic so that you can watch the 11th Doctor's era and treat it as one massive kind of plot thread that runs right through from the beginning to the end. I don't think it quite ties in effectively, but for what it's worth, this story, it has its entertaining moments for sure. And also the first act of this story, I think it's too silly. I just think the first act of Time of the Doctor is a bit all over the place when the Doctor's going around with a piece of Dalek eye and a Cyberman head, which he calls handles. All of that stuff at the beginning before the pre-titles, and then going to Clara's for Christmas dinner. It's just really unnecessary, and I think it's stupid. I think like I said, the comedy is a bit too silly in this story. So then when the tone changes about a third of the way in, you feel like, hang on, this almost feels like there are scenes from different episodes stitched together here. Granted, what does work about the story, the acting. Matt Smith is amazing in this story. I mean, if he was ever to go out, he goes out with a bang. He really gave his performance the best that he could. It gives a much more emotional performance this time round, and I love the aging makeup that they give him, and I think that works really effectively, and I truly believed his Doctor was kind of put to the ultimate test here. We see him endlessly struggle with his age because his body is just tired, and technically he's on his last body and he's not allowed to regenerate, so he's just kind of living out the rest of his days on Trenzalore defending the town which is called Christmas, and it's taking its toll on him. Granted, I really hate the fact that Stephen Moffat counts Tennant's fake regeneration in The Stolen Earth as an actual regeneration. I'm sorry, that's just bullshit. I don't count that, but whatever. Stephen Moffat's counted it, so yeah. I mean, thankfully, the Doctor does get a new set of regenerations at the end, but in the build-up to that, we are kind of thinking that all hope is lost. So I do appreciate the fact that there are some stakes to this story, and the fact that it's weighing heavily on the Doctor, the fact that he may not make it out of this situation, and he's kind of coming to terms with his inevitable death. Well, he assumes it's his inevitable death. I particularly like the scene with the poem when Clara returns to Trenzalore and she sees the Doctor much older, and she says, 11's hour is over now, the clock is striking 12's. There's some lovely, beautiful, emotional moments in this story. The Doctor and Clara's relationship is put to the test as well when he sends her home, a bit like the Doctor does with Rose in Parting of the Ways. Clara obviously comes back and they have their little argument, but then they kiss and make up pretty quickly. Jenna Coleman is very good as Clara. She also gives a very emotional performance. But again, all the jokes at the beginning about being naked in church and about him being her boyfriend, it's just, let's just cut all of this, filler, this total fluff out of the story. We don't need it. Let's just get on with the story. I think the episode wastes too much time in trying to sort of, have a joke. And for me, it just affects the second half of the story too much. Also, there's that weird joke about Matt Smith wearing a wig. Obviously, because as we know, during the time when he filmed his final story, he had shaved his head. I think for a job that he was going to do, a role that he was going to play somewhere else. So Stephen Moffat and co had to give him a wig. And, I mean, it's a nice little joke. I don't mind that too much. But, yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. Orla Brady as Tasha Lem, she's very good. It turns out that her character is technically a Dalek, but then she's not. She's actually good. What? That plot twist was really confusing. I didn't understand why. Okay, so the Daleks had invaded the church and they took control of the papal mainframe because all the Silence and all the soldiers were all Daleks, and then Tasha Lem was a Dalek, but then she managed to change back. Well, the Doctor managed to talk her out of it. What? Yeah, I did not understand that one bit. I thought that was really confusing. I have to admit, though, there are some epic action sequences in this story, like some really great confrontations when the Doctor's fighting all the villains, and especially towards the end when he gets his new cycle of regenerations and he's on the tower, and he's like, "If you want my life, come and get it!" And he kind of throws his arms out and he starts to do that massive epic regeneration. Which is pretty awesome. I'd say that is a really awesome scene, and Matt Smith is just absolutely brilliant in that scene, where he kind of uses his regeneration energy to obliterate the town and stop the villains. It's just remarkable, really remarkable. Also, Murray Gold's music is very good and is very emotional this time, certainly towards the end of the story when we are saying goodbye to Doctor Number 11. We'll come to the actual regeneration in just a sec, but the moment when Matt Smith, we see him in his younger form. His regeneration energy has made him look younger, but he's still regenerating. The scene in which he changes is very emotional. I think it's a nice one. I mean, I didn't shed tears or anything, not as much as David Tennant, but I certainly felt it. I thought, oh, this is sad to see 11 go. His speech about, I will always remember when the Doctor was me. I love that. I thought that was really well written. And the nice nods back to the past as well when he sees young Amelia, the first face this face saw, and then he sees Amy come down the stairs and she says, "Raggedy Man, good night." That was really, really nice and really appreciated. And the bowl of fish custard, and then him taking off the bow tie. So all of these little things that Matt Smith established with his incarnation of the Doctor, really lovely, really nice to see those in that final moment. I have to say, though, the actual regeneration is a little disappointing. I think, the change from Smith to Capaldi is just so quick. It's like a sneeze. Literally, he moves his head back. That's it. I know the argument can be made that the Doctor kind of used most of his regeneration energy on the tower, but still, it wasn't really enough of a moment for us to see the face change. And I just thought that it could have been done better. I really thought that moment was lackluster for me. After all that build-up, it's just, bam, it's done. Like, really? Oh, come on, Moffat. But that being said, Peter Capaldi's first scene is quite funny. When he's like, "Kidneys! I've got new kidneys! I don't like the colour of your kidneys." So there's some funny moments there. Although, what causes the TARDIS to crash? I have no idea. Like, why is it in the new series that after every regeneration, the TARDIS has to crash? I mean, I understand for Eccleston and Tennant, but for this, for Smith to Capaldi, they're just talking in the TARDIS, and all of a sudden the TARDIS is just crashing out of nowhere. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I find that to be a little bit strange, to be honest. Like I said, Matt Smith gives a really good performance, and it is sad to see him go. I must admit, I was proven wrong by Matt Smith. He proved to be a very good Doctor, and he will be missed. He will be missed, and it was sad to see him go out the way he did. But for nothing else, his performance in this story is excellent. And, he proved that the Doctor was him. Also want to give a shout outs to Clara's dad, who's played by James Buller, Linda, who's presumably Clara's stepmom or the dad's girlfriend, played by Elizabeth Ryder, the Gran, played by Sheila Reid, the voice of Handles, played by Kavian Novak. He's the man that voices the little Cyberman head that the Doctor befriends, which is nice. I liked that moment. For me, the time of the Doctor, it's such a mixed bag. There are things I like about it, but there are things I find disappointing. It's very uneven. I think that's the problem I have. But I will say this, it's a good enough, decent ending for Matt Smith. I enjoyed parts of it, but there are things I would definitely work on for the future. So I'm going to give the time of the Doctor a 7 out of 10. So, that is the end of the Matt Smith era, and, well, I gotta hand it to Matt Smith. What a great Doctor. What an absolutely great Doctor. Noticeably, the show dipped in quality, but whenever the show dipped in quality, Smith always kept us entertained with his performance as the Doctor, and he really proved a lot of people wrong, because when he was cast after David Tennant left, and bearing in mind David Tennant was so popular, Matt Smith had a lot to prove because he was the youngest actor to play the role at the time, and coming after David Tennant, no pressure. And I think, honestly, Matt Smith surprised me, and he surprised a lot of people. It took me a few episodes to get into his Doctor, but I like his kind of quirky, out there side. He's definitely very alien, and he's very out of the ordinary. He definitely takes a little bit of inspiration from Patrick Troughton, but I don't mind that. I think his Doctor is definitely the most goofball of all the Doctors. Certainly with the comedy, Matt Smith was very quirky, and I think that worked. I think in terms of the amount of stories he did, he had a long era. He did a lot. Most of his era was taken up by Amy and Rory, but he did have some adventures with Clara towards the end, and I like his two different costumes. I like a lot of things about his era. Now, is Matt Smith my favourite Doctor? No. I don't know if he's one of the best of the bunch, but he's certainly very good, and I think that if I were to rank all of the actors, he'd probably be in the middle somewhere. I think he's very good, and he's very solid, and I think, especially as he had to suffer with a lot of bad writing in his era, that's the one downside, is that his era is plagued with a lot of bad scripts. But it's a very inconsistent era. That's the only trouble. The stories are very all over the place, but his performance was the most consistent thing about his era. So I will raise a toast to Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor. Geronimo. So yeah, that's it. That's my review of the Matt Smith era and Time of the Doctor. What do you think of this story? Please comment down below. Let me know. And I just want to say before I finish that I will be taking a break from Doctor Who reviews now. It's taken me a while to get through Matt Smith because there's a lot of stories and I've had personal things to deal with. But let me know what you think of Matt Smith down below and Time of the Doctor. And I will finish up with a tribute to the 11th Doctor. Goodbye, Matt Smith. Thank you very much. And as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See ya.